I remember the exact moment I met Olivia Carter, 3 years ago, as if it had happened just yesterday. My life was in shambles back then, an utter wreck. My apartment had become an unlivable swamp, thanks to the absent-minded guy upstairs who had left his bathtub running. Water had come crashing through my ceiling, drenching everything I owned, leaving me with no choice but to crash at my best friend Marcus's place while the damage was repaired. And that's where she walked into my world. Olivia, his younger sister. I was slumped on Marcus's old, lumpy couch, nursing a cheap beer and wallowing in self-pity, when she breezed through the door like a gust of fresh air. She was stunning, long, dark hair cascading over her shoulders, piercing green eyes that glittered with mischief, and a smile so confident it felt like a punch straight to the chest. Olivia didn't just enter a room. She owned it. "You must be the flood victim," she teased, her voice light yet warm, amusement dancing in her eyes. Despite my miserable state, I found myself laughing. She sat down beside me, closer than necessary, and started asking about my wrecked apartment, my job, my life. And she wasn't just making small talk. She genuinely wanted to know. It was intoxicating, that feeling of being seen, of being the only person in the world worth talking to. We hit it off fast. Within a week, we were texting constantly, conversations stretching into the early hours of the morning. By the end of the month, we were inseparable. Olivia had this undeniable magnetism, a way of drawing people in. At parties, she was the center of attention, her laughter ringing through the room, her hands animated as she told stories. Guys hovered around her, offering drinks, captivated by her presence. Girls clung to her every word, eager to be in her orbit. I'd watch from a distance, proud, because she was mine, but also apprehensive. She's just friendly, I told myself. She loves the attention, but she's with me. From the outside, we looked perfect together. Me, the steady, reliable guy with a solid job, and Olivia, the radiant force of nature who lit up every space she entered. When we went out, I'd hold her hand, feeling like I had won something priceless. She'd lean in close, whisper something witty, and I'd think, this is it. This is what people dream about. But even then, there was a quiet voice in the back of my mind, whispering doubts I wasn't ready to acknowledge. She needed attention constantly, and I ignored it. Love makes you stupid like that. The first few months were a whirlwind. Once my apartment was repaired, she'd show up unannounced, takeout in one hand, a bottle of wine in the other. We'd talk for hours, and she had this effortless charm, this way of making me feel like the center of her universe. But looking back, I see it now. It wasn't always real. She'd flirt with waiters right in front of me, tossing her hair, laughing at their jokes. When I frowned, she'd brush it off as playful. "Relax, babe, it's just fun." And I let it go. She'd cancel plans last minute, leaving me waiting, only to flash that dazzling smile when she finally showed up, making my frustration melt away. I convinced myself it was fine. She was spontaneous, full of life, everything I wasn't. People constantly told me how lucky I was to have her, and I believed them. But that magnetic pull she had, it wasn't just for me. It was for everyone. And deep down, I think I always knew that. Some nights, I'd lie awake beside her, listening to her breathe, wondering if I was enough for someone like Olivia. She was always chasing something, attention, excitement, the next thrill, while I was just me, the steady one, the one who paid his bills on time, who didn't stir the waters. But then she'd turn in her sleep, drape an arm over my chest, and I'd push the doubts away. She chose me, I'd tell myself. Out of everyone, she's here with me. And for a while, that was enough. 3 years ago, I thought I had found the woman I would spend my life with. I thought I knew her, the way she laughed, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams. But now, looking back, I realize I never really knew her at all. I saw what I wanted to see, and that was my first mistake. The signs had been there from the very beginning, glaringly obvious, but I had been too wrapped up in Olivia to notice. She treated my time like it was insignificant, as if I were just someone waiting on the sidelines for her to decide when I was worth her attention. I remember our first real date, an intimate little Italian place with red checkered tablecloths, the kind of spot where the air smelled like fresh basil and warm bread. I had arrived early, eager, wearing a shirt I had ironed just for her. She was supposed to meet me at 6:30. By 7 o'clock, there was still no sign of her. I checked my phone. No messages. I called. No answer. I tried to tell myself she was just running late. At 7:20, she finally strolled in, her hair slightly disheveled, as if she just rolled out of bed, a careless smile on her lips. "Sorry, babe, got caught up with Sabrina," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, completely unbothered. I wanted to be upset. I should have been upset. But then she reached across the table, took my hand, and started talking about her day as if nothing had happened. And just like that, I let it slide. Love is about compromise, right? At least that's what I told myself back then. I took a slow sip of water, nodding along, reminding myself of all the times I had let things slide. But it wasn't just that one time. Olivia was late for everything: dinners, movies, even my own birthday party. Every single time, I'd sit there waiting, feeling like an idiot, but I'd forgive her. I always forgave her, because the truth was, I didn't want to lose her. Then there was her job situation. Something that should have been a glaring red flag, waving in my face from the start. Olivia worked in marketing, or at least she tried to. She'd land a new job, brimming with excitement about the creative energy or how it was finally a place that understood her vision. But it never lasted. 3 months here, 4 months there, then she quit. She'd come home pacing, her voice rising as she ran about how her boss was an idiot, how they didn't appreciate her, how she was far too talented for the mediocrity they demanded. "They're all idiots," she'd say, tossing her hair like she was above it all. I'd sit there on the couch, nodding, trying to calm her down, maybe suggesting that next time she should stick it out. "You don't understand," she'd snap, and I'd back off. Once, she was fired for missing a major deadline. She blamed her team, said they had sabotaged her. I wanted to ask how that made any sense, but I didn't. Instead, I just paid the rent that month when her share mysteriously never appeared. Red flag? Yeah. Did I ignore it? Absolutely. But the worst thing, the thing that gnawed at me in the quiet hours of the night, was how she talked about people. Everyone. All the time. She'd send me these long, unfiltered texts unloading about her day, but half of them weren't about her at all. They were about tearing others down. Her best friend, Sabrina, an insecure loser who's jealous of me. Her parents, lazy nobodies who never made anything of themselves. Her old bosses, her coworkers, even complete strangers. She always had something venomous to say. I'd read those messages late at night, my phone screen glowing in the dark, feeling the slow twist in my stomach. She's just venting, I'd tell myself, swiping past the words, trying to ignore the nagging thought that this wasn't normal. But then the pieces started clicking into place. The money I had spent on her, the lies I had swallowed whole, the way she had used me, played me, treated my time, my patience, my kindness like they were disposable. I wasn't going to let it end with me slinking away, humiliated. No, Olivia Carter wasn't going to walk away from this unscathed. She had built her little kingdom on my back, and I was about to burn it down, softly, gently, but completely. Marcus dropped me off at my apartment that night, and I thanked him, promising I'd explain everything later. I stepped inside, flicked on the light, and sank onto the couch, staring at the wall. The night replayed itself in my mind. Her laughter, Noah's smug smirk, the pity in the waiter's eyes. But it didn't break me. It ignited something inside me. She thought I was weak, thought I was just some lovesick puppy she could lead around on a leash. Fine. This puppy was about to bite back. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My head buzzed, replaying Olivia's condescending giggle, the way her friends laughed at my expense. I sat in the dark, the only light coming from my laptop, and I started digging. I wasn't just walking away this time. For 3 years, I had propped her up, financially, emotionally, in every way that mattered, and now I was going to pull it all apart. She had built her shiny little existence on my money, my patience, my silence. and I was done being silent. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, and set to work. First up, her car. That damn Mercedes she had begged me for. Spinning promises about how it was an investment in her image, how she needed it to match her career aspirations. I had been stupid enough to co-sign the loan. Even more foolish to keep making payments when her stable employment never materialized. I pulled up my bank account, my fingers trembling slightly as I checked the autopay setup. There it was, a monthly transfer, $150 straight from my check into hers, keeping that car on the road. I stared at the number for a long moment, then reached for my phone. I dialed the bank's 24-hour customer service line and waited through the grating hold music until finally, a tired-sounding man answered. "I need to report financial exploitation," I said, my voice calm, detached. I explained everything, how I had been manipulated into covering her loan, how she hadn't paid a dime, how she had made promise after promise, all of them empty. "I'm canceling the next transfer," I informed him. He asked a few questions, typed away on his keyboard, and then said it would be flagged for review. By morning, her payment would bounce. That car, her prized possession, the thing she flaunted like it proved she was somebody, would be one step closer to repossession. I leaned back, took a slow sip of my beer, and let the satisfaction settle in. She had built a world out of illusions, out of taking and never giving back. It was time for that world to start crumbling.